Good evening, everyone. Welcome to NTD Tonight. I'm David Lam, sitting in for David Zhang. Here's a preview of some of today's top stories. Former competitive swimmer Riley Gaines returns to the San Francisco area for a tour. Find out what she had to say. A rare tie in a California congressional primary. Who are the three candidates vying for the seat left vacant by Democratic Congresswoman Anna Eshoo? A 4.8 magnitude earthquake struck New Jersey earlier today. How common are quakes on the East Coast? We'll find out from a scientist. Former competitive swimmer Riley Gaines returned to the San Francisco area to speak while on a campus tour. 1 year ago in San Francisco, Gaines said she was ambushed by protesters and required police escorts after being held in a room for several hours. NTD's Jason Blair has more.
Riley Gaines spoke at University of California, Berkeley as part of her Reclaiming Feminism campus tour on Thursday evening. The gathering was open to the public and one of 25 stops on the tour.
What I will say about the reception that I've had this semester is overwhelmingly in support.
The tour aims to build, quote, a movement of students, athletes, and concerned citizens who are fed up with the attack on our freedoms and rights, and who dare to defy the dangerous gender ideology that's spreading rampant and unchecked throughout society. The event is almost exactly 1 year from an incident that happened after Gaines spoke at San Francisco State University.
These protesters, totally ambushed me and the Turning Point students in the room. There's pushing and shoving and jostling. They did hold me for ransom throughout the middle of the night, demanding that if I wanted to make it home to see my family safely again, I had to pay them money.
Gaines spoke of her experience competing against transgender swimmer Leah Thomas at the 2022 NCAA National Swimming and Diving Championships. Thomas had previously competed on the men's team before switching to the women's.
Who was ranked nationally against the men the year prior, 554th in the same event, the 200 free, to again now dominating, not just number one out of the entire country of women, dominating the entire nation.
Last month, Gaines and 15 other athletes filed a suit against the NCAA over violating Title IX. She said the case was just assigned a judge.
The NCAA has failed at its most basic duties of ensuring privacy in areas of undressing, ensuring safety in our sports, especially sports that require physical contact, and ensuring equal opportunities.
Security was fairly heavy during the event, and NTD did not see any protesters. The venue was close to capacity and had a diverse audience.
I believe in her cause because women should have fairness and equality in competition in sports. They should not be competing with men that are biologically men.
Where I come from, for us, there is male and female and nothing in between, And really the injustice that happens, you feel that you have to do something about it, actually.
Gaines's next stop include North Dakota State University and Iowa State University. Jason Blair, NTD News.
In New York, the state is suing a county that banned men who identify as women from women's sports teams. A New York judge ruled that the state can continue illegal action against a county outside New York City that has banned men who identify as women from women's and girls' sports teams. The judge rejected Nassau County's request to stop Attorney General Letitia James from taking action, saying the county failed to demonstrate irreparable harm. The ruling doesn't settle the ban's legality, which will be decided at a later date. Last month, James sent a letter demanding the county to remove the ban, saying it violates New York's anti-discrimination laws. Nassau County responded with a federal lawsuit seeking affirmation of the ban's legality and to prevent James from intervening. The ban prohibits boys or men who identify as women from competing on girls' or women's teams. A rare tie in a California congressional primary could result in a three-way race come November. Assemblymember Evan Lowe and Santa Clara County Supervisor Joe Simidian both earned exactly the same number of votes, putting them in a tie for second place. Typically, only the top two finishers advance to the general election. The unofficial results show both Democratic candidates with around 16% of the tally and 30,249 votes each in the 16th Congressional District. The first-place candidate, former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo, also a Democrat, had around 21% of the vote. The candidates are competing for the seat left vacant by Democratic Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, who decided not to run for re-election after serving since 1993. In California, the top two vote-getters in the primary election advance to the general election, regardless of party affiliation. However, in case of a tie for the top two spots, all tied candidates proceed. An update on the Israel-Hamas war. The Israeli military dismissed 2 officers for their roles in drone strikes that killed 7 aid workers in Gaza. The military also reprimanded 3 other officers. According to the military's own investigation, the officers mishandled critical information and violated the Army's rules of engagement. The investigation found that a colonel had authorized the drone strikes on the convoy based on an observation by another officer that someone in the convoy was armed. World Central Kitchen called the investigation and disciplinary actions important steps forward, but said more needed to be done. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said it was important that Israel was taking responsibility and that the U.S. would review the findings. He also welcomed Israel's decision to allow more aid into Gaza.
These are positive developments, but the real test is results. And that's what we're looking to see in the coming days and in the coming weeks. Is the aid effectively reaching people who need it throughout Gaza? Are the bottlenecks and other delays at crossings being resolved? Do we have a much better system for deconfliction and coordination so that the humanitarian workers, the folks who are delivering the aid, can do it safely?
And back in the Middle East, CIA Director William Burns and 2 Israeli intelligence chiefs will be in Egypt over the weekend. They will continue negotiations for the release of Israeli hostages held by Hamas. A 4.8 magnitude earthquake struck New Jersey this morning and was felt in New York City. Shaking was felt as far as Connecticut, Philadelphia, and the Massachusetts-New Hampshire border. New York Governor Kathy Hochul said that there are no life-threatening situations or reports of significant damage. For analysis, I spoke to Angie Lux, project scientist for Earthquake Early Warning at the Berkeley Seismological Laboratory. Angie, thank you so much for joining us. Now, a 4.8 quake hit the Northeast today, an extremely rare event, making it historic. While earthquakes are common on the West Coast, where you and I are from, why are they so rare on the East Coast?
Earthquakes are rare on the East Coast because of the tectonic activity that are happening there. So on the West Coast, we have the San Andreas Fault. It's a big fault that goes all the way down the state. On the East Coast, you don't have anything like that. You don't have any big faults. The plate movements that are happening on the East Coast are nothing like they are on the West Coast, where we have plates moving past each other. So just a very different tectonic regime on the East Coast from the West Coast.
Angie, when was the last time we saw any seismic activity on the East Coast?
You've had some earthquakes in the past. I was looking at seismic activity earlier today, but they're smaller earthquakes. So I think this is one of the largest earthquakes that you've had in, I think, over 100 years. So it's definitely a significant event for that area. You just don't have as many larger earthquakes on that East Coast area.
And what do we know about what triggered this? Taiwan, of course, just had a large earthquake. Could these 2 earthquakes be connected at all?
The likelihood of them being connected is very, very rare, very small. I would say that there was zero possibility that the earthquake that happened in Taiwan triggered the earthquake on the East Coast today. It's just the buildup of tectonic stress over time. As I said, you have had earthquakes like this in the past, but they're just not very frequent events.
And the United States Geological Survey reported that the 4.8 magnitude quake had a depth of 1 kilometer. Tell us about how depth impacts the strength and destructiveness of an earthquake and how it plays into the one in the Northeast today.
That's a great question. So when earthquakes happen closer to the surface, you're more likely to feel stronger shaking if you're right on top of that epicenter. If an earthquake is much deeper, you may not feel quite as strong shaking if you're directly on top of the epicenter. So the closer you are to exactly where that earthquake is rupturing, the stronger shaking you're going to feel. So the shallower, the stronger shaking you'll feel at the surface.
Now, Angie, a solar eclipse is coming on Monday, and the moon, of course, can impact the tides here on Earth. But many people online are speculating the solar eclipse could be impacting the Earth's plates too. What are your thoughts on this?
I would again say that that's a pretty rare likelihood that the solar eclipse is impacting the earthquake seismic activity. For example, on the West Coast, we've actually been very seismically quiet lately. So I don't think that there's a correlation between those two things.
And can we expect any aftershocks or other earthquakes to be triggered by today's quake?
You can expect some smaller aftershocks to happen. That would definitely be a very normal thing to happen, to have earthquakes that are smaller than this magnitude 4.8 earthquake happening in the same location. That would be a normal thing. So people can anticipate possibly feeling aftershocks in that area.
All right, Angie, thank you so much for your insight.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come right back. A massive heist during this past holiday weekend left one company missing millions and left authorities wondering who is behind what sounds like the perfect crime. April snow brings joy to some and misery to others. More on the intense weather in the U.S. Northeast. The baseball team, the Oakland A's, are relocating to a temporary new home to play 3 seasons before their official move to Las Vegas. Those stories and more coming up on NTD Tonight. Welcome back to NTD Tonight. I'm your host, David Lamb. A company that specializes in storing and protecting other people's money lost a fortune over the recent holiday weekend. So far, no arrests have been made, and everyone's wondering just who's behind what sounds like the perfect multi-million-dollar crime. NTD's Bill Thomas tells us more from Southern California.
Several days ago on Easter Sunday, a lot of folks went to church, a lot of folks hosted an Easter Sunday brunch, and the kids took part in the annual Easter egg hunt. Later that night, a heist of epic proportions. Thieves broke into the Garda World warehouse just behind me and made away with $30 million. Garda World sits on the 15,600 block of Roxford Street in the Los Angeles suburb of Sylmar. On their website, they describe themselves as a global champion in security services, integrated risk management, and cash solutions, and they're also simply referred to as a money storage facility. So it was a surprise for everyone on Monday morning when the business opened up and they realized they'd been robbed. The LA Times reported that the thieves were so stealthy that the safe showed no signs of a break-in from the outside, and the operators of the business didn't know a thing till they opened it on Monday. Next door to the Garda World warehouse, we caught up with retired LAPD detective Moses Castillo, who tells us who he thinks is responsible for the haul.
To me, this smells of an inside job, 100%. There's no doubt in my mind.
Castillo went on to say that these buildings are very difficult to breach.
These buildings have very sophisticated alarm systems and video footage cameras everywhere. And to go undetected to the next morning, it has to be somebody that knew how to bypass all that.
One person familiar with the investigation said the thieves got into the building through the roof, and they somehow managed to avoid setting off any alarms when they got into the money storage area in the warehouse. And just exactly who does he think is responsible for this monumental money grab? One person? Maybe a group?
Either it's a current dishonest employee or somebody that was recently discharged for whatever reason or retired or whatnot. But I believe this was really well planned out. But I also believe they may have had lookouts. And sometimes when they do the operations, they'll have radio communications. monitoring the police frequency to see if the police were dispatched, and if they were, they give the people a heads up, hey, the police are coming, let's bail, let's get out of here.
FBI officials and LAPD officers are working together on this investigation, and those same LAPD officers are also looking into a variety of break-ins at Los Angeles jewelry stores. On Monday morning, they say thieves used sledgehammers to bash through a half-dozen walls across 3 businesses and a strip mall to break into a jewelry store. The owner was there, locked the doors, called the police, and the thieves took off. Bill Thomas, NTD News, Sylmar.
Apple is the latest tech giant to announce layoffs. Initially thought of as an exception to the trend, it is now joining many other companies in cutting costs.
Apple is laying off more than 600 workers in California. It's the company's first big wave of post-pandemic job cuts amid a broader wave of tech industry consolidation. According to reports to regional authorities, the iPhone maker notified 614 workers in multiple offices on March 28th that they were losing their jobs, with the layoffs becoming effective on May 27th. The workers were cut from 8 offices in Santa Clara, but it's not clear which departments or projects the employees were involved in. The Cupertino, California-based company had been a notable exception as other tech companies slashed their workforces over the past 2 years. There was a massive surge in hiring during the COVID-19 pandemic when people spent more time and money online, and big tech companies are larger than they were before the pandemic. Still, as growth slows, companies are focusing on cutting costs. In a recent regulatory filing, Apple said it had about 161,000 full-time equivalent employees. Amazon announced earlier this week a fresh round of layoffs, this time at its cloud computing business AWS. Video game maker Electronic Arts said it's cutting about 5% of its workforce. Sony said it's axing about 900 jobs in its PlayStation division. Cisco Systems revealed plans to lay off more than 4,000 workers, and social media company Snap, owner of Snapchat, announced it's slashing 10% of its global workforce.
April's storm dumped heavy snow and intense weather in the Northeast. Some residents are enjoying the infrequent occurrence, but others see it as unfortunate.
An early spring nor'easter is hammering the Northeast with heavy snow, rain, and high winds, with some northern areas expected to get up to 2 feet of snow.
Well, it's special to get snow in April and to be able to get out and enjoy it, you know. It's fun being a Mainer. But we've been missing snow, so this is a special little sort of after the winter story gift, I guess.
I was just killing time at the grocery store, so hopefully my friend can plow the driveway, because I don't know how well the snowblower does in this weather.
But it also brings about some challenges and even fatality. Around 630,000 homes and businesses remain without power Thursday afternoon from West Virginia to Maine. Police say a falling tree in a New York City suburb killed a woman late Wednesday afternoon. Dozens of flights to and from area airports have been canceled or delayed, and schools and government offices are closed in many towns. People can expect to see heavy snow through Friday and lingering winds through Saturday. The storm comes as several other states continue to clean up from tornadoes and other intense weather that was blamed for at least 2 deaths earlier this week.
Now for some major news in sports. The Oakland Athletics are temporarily moving to Sacramento. NTD's Carlos Reyes has more on the story.
In a move that has stirred controversy and drawn criticism from many quarters, the Oakland Athletics have announced their relocation plans to Sacramento, California for the next 3 seasons. This decision, which effectively ends their tenure at the Oakland Coliseum, comes after failed negotiations with Oakland officials who were unable to reach an agreement on a lease extension. The Athletics' choice to make Sutter Health Park their temporary home marks a significant shift from the vast confines of the Oakland Coliseum to a much smaller venue. With a capacity of approximately 14,000 seats, Sutter Health Park pales in comparison to the Coliseum's staggering capacity of over 63,000. This downsizing could present logistical challenges for the team as they navigate the transition to a more intimate setting. While the move to Sacramento may offer certain temporary benefits, such as a closer connection between fans and players in a smaller venue, it has sparked concern over the impact on the team's workforce. Reports indicate that the Athletics intend to utilize existing staff from other professional sport teams in Sacramento, potentially leading to layoffs for current A's employees. This development has added a layer of uncertainty and unease to an already contentious relocation process. As the Athletics prepare to bid farewell to Oakland and embark on this new chapter in Sacramento, they face criticism and scrutiny from fans and stakeholders who view the move as a betrayal to the team's roots. Carlos Reyes, NTD News.
This Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, NTD's China in Focus has prepared a special report about how the United States helped communist China grow strong enough to take on the West. Here's a look.
From less than 1% of the world's gross domestic product to a massive 19%. That's the marker of China's development in just 3 decades. How did the communist country grow so fast? And who helped it along?
Never in history has one country funded the rise of its enemy, which is what the United States has done.
It's an existential threat where the Chinese Communist Party is seeking to essentially destroy the United States, who they believe is the one country that can stand in their way of achieving this great rejuvenation of China. Across the board, you can pick a topic and you can see the pernicious influence of the Chinese Communist Party.
And we're in this Cold War situation, this period of intense security competition that we must now resolve.
Stay tuned for China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer coming up next. Beijing's information war against the U.S. becoming more sophisticated with the help of AI. More details coming tonight at China in Focus with Tiffany Meyer at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. And that's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on NTD Tonight every weekday at 9 p.m. I'm David Lamb, sitting in for David Zhang. Have a wonderful weekend.